Hey, folks, thanks for joining us. This is Phantoms and Monsters Radio, where the veil lifts one story at a time. Now, if you're new here, welcome to the presentation. Now, tonight, we're kind of going to go back over a few things. I had made a few adjustments with some of the reports, but for nearly 14 years, Chicago has stood at the epicenter of one of America's most perplexing modern mysteries, the rise of the winged humanoid phenomenon. Now, from frightened Chicagoland residents to police officers, pilots, and air traffic controllers at O'Hare International, credible witnesses have described a massive, dark entity with glowing eyes and bat-like wings stalking the skies over the city and its suburbs. Now, in this episode, I'm going to revisit the most disturbing and best documented encounters ever recorded. So stories that suggest this being is more than a legend and may still be watching from above. Now, I will say we haven't had a actual live report in almost a year now. So I just wonder if it's ever going to start back up again. Hopefully it will, but we'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, we're going to go back and discuss some of the more stranger reports out of Chicagoland. Now, this first account, late on a humid summer night in 2017, a pair of Chicago police officers found themselves confronting something that defied every instinct and ounce of training they had. Responding to frightened residents in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood, the officers witnessed a massive winged humanoid take flight from a rooftop, an encounter later corroborated by local journalists who saw the same entity moments before. The event marked one of the first major police-linked reports in the Chicago Mothman saga, igniting a wave of public fear and media intrigue that still lingers today. Now, the witness states, I want to share an experience I had on the night of June 29, 2017 in Chicago, Illinois. I'm submitting this report anonymously because I work for the Chicago Police Department and prefer to keep this matter private. Now, I've been with the department for over 8.5 years. The only people who knew that I submitted this report are my wife, my son, who encouraged me to share this, and my partner who witnessed the incident with me. I want to assure you that I am in sound mind and health, and I do not seek publicity other than reporting this incident. I'm not prone to fantasy or hoaxes, especially while on duty. Now, on the night of June 29th, 2017, at approximately 11:15 p.m., my partner and I were on routine patrol near the intersection of West 81st Street and South Throop in Auburn Gresham neighborhood. We were flagged down by a group of people who were pointing at the top of an apartment building on the corner. We pulled over and they immediately urged us to look up at the building. Many in the group were frightened but excited about what they had seen. Now, when we looked, we saw a large creature that appeared to be approximately 6 to 6.5 feet tall and very thin. If it had been human, it would have been emaciated. This being was standing atop the building and had what looked like a pair of enormous wings that extended at least 8 to 10 feet from tip to tip. It seemed to be a dark black shadow with wings and had no discernible features. Now, initially, my partner and I thought someone might be attempting to jump from the building, possibly wearing a costume. However, when we shone our flashlights for a better view, the creature took off into the air and flew away. Now, as it flew southward, we heard something akin to a scream, and within about 5 seconds, the creature vanished into the night. The people who flagged us down mentioned that many residents had seen this entity for the past 2 nights, but this was the only occasion it appeared in a stationary position. We stood there, stunned as it flew away. Afterward, we talked to the group, gathering information about previous sightings. Initially, we were hesitant to file a report, fearing ridicule for possibly reporting a little green man. However, we decided to file it rather than ignore protocol. Since then, no further information has been released about the report, and business has continued as usual. Now, I wanted to file this report because when I told my son the story, he found online that similar sightings have occurred in the city. The day after the sighting, I showed my partner what my son had found, but he expressed that he wanted no involvement and believed that it was just a large owl or bird that had been misidentified. My son encouraged me to submit this report anonymously to protect my identity. I know what I saw was real. While I can't explain it, I firmly believe that what I witnessed was flesh and blood. As a Christian, I believe there are things from other realms that stalk the people of this earth, and that faith is what protects us from these entities. I trust my faith for protection and hope never to see this creature again. Thank you for your time and have a blessed day. So, about a month later, one of the witnesses from the Auburn Gresham neighborhood contacted me. Mr. Strickler, I hesitated to send this for 2 reasons. First, I'm still not entirely sure that I believe it myself. And second, as a journalist, I don't want this kind of report to discredit me for future career opportunities. That's why I'm sending this anonymously. And that's why I'm not interested in following up with any of this. I was discussing the story with my siblings the other night while we were drinking, and my sister pointed out that it reminded her of some stories she'd seen circulating online. When I looked into it myself, I was surprised to see that my story had already been partially reported earlier this month. On June 29th, I was walking home from getting Wendy's when a small group of friends when one of my friends pointed up at a large shape in a tree on the corner of West 81st and South Throop. The object was large, but the details were difficult to make out at night. Then the thing jumped out of the tree and flew onto the roof of the apartment building on the same block. Now, when it flew, I got the chance to see that it was tall, dark thing with wide wings. Nothing like the Mothman statue that you got in Point Pleasant. A group of people had started to form at the corner with my friends and me. Then some of the people on the corner whom I hadn't met previously flagged down a cop car to point the thing out. That's when my friends and I quietly slipped away. I'm a transgender woman and I've had my share of bad interaction with the police. My friends felt similarly. I now believe that the officer I saw was the same officer who reported this thing on the same night. I still think it might have a logical explanation, but I thought there might be others interested in hearing this story and coming to their own conclusions. Thank you. Yeah, that and of course that report and getting a report from the police officers it was kind of unique and great because we did file FOIA request, myself and two other people on the team, and we all received responses very quickly from the police department. But of course, they had no knowledge of this, even though the report apparently went through. So it seemed to me that they answered too quickly and they were expecting it to come out, so they were all ready. But anyway, in this second incident, just after midnight along the Tri-State Tollway near Chicago Ridge, an ordinary late-night drive turned into something unforgettable. A skeptical husband known for dismissing the unexplained watched a figure sprint across the highway, only to see it morph into a massive blackbird-like being that soared into the night sky. The witness's disbelief and his wife's shaken reaction sparked one of the region's eeriest reports, blurring the lines between shapeshifter legend and the enduring mystery of the Chicago Mothman. Now, this is what I received. Okay, this is scary. On February 8th, and that was 2018, I believe, just after 1 a.m., I messaged a medium friend of mine. Here's the message I sent. Hey, sorry to bother you, but you were the first person I thought to ask about this. What do you think it means? My husband, John, who's a huge skeptic and doesn't believe in things like this, was just driving home in the dark when he saw what he thought was a person running on two legs across the highway, when it turned into a giant black bird and flew away. He swears it was running on two legs before becoming the biggest bird he's ever seen, flying with long legs. What are your thoughts? It sounds creepy to me. Could it be a shapeshifter, an angel, or a demon? He's pretty creeped out now. So we concluded that it might have been a shapeshifter. This incident occurred on I-294, which is the Tri-State Tollway south near 111th Street, shortly after midnight between Worth and Chicago Ridge, Illinois. Today, my friend messaged me to ask if my husband thinks it might have been the Mothman. We Googled it, and what we found was crazy. He said it sounded exactly like what he saw. Now, my husband doesn't believe in this kind of thing, but when he got home, he looked pale and had goosebumps all up and down his arms. If anyone else had told me what they saw or what he saw, I wouldn't have believed it. But coming from my husband, I knew it was true. What does everyone think it means? And her name was JJ. Well, of course, that wasn't the last time it happened because we started receiving more and more accounts. Now, on a summer night in Bolingbrook, Illinois, a routine evening walk through Indian Boundary Park became a moment of terror for one unsuspecting resident. What first appeared to be two people embracing soon revealed itself as a towering, faceless humanoid that seemed aware of her presence and her intent to photograph it. The encounter's eerie silence, the strange sounds he emitted, and the psychic pull the witness described made it one of the most unsettling and predatory feeling incidents in the entire Chicago Mothman chronology. Now, the witness called me, and I went ahead and took notes, and this is what it was told to me. This encounter took place in the playground area of the Indian Boundary Park in Bolingbrook, Illinois, a southwest suburb of Chicago. The witness, who wishes to remain anonymous due to her residency in a tight-knit community, has regular routine of walking in the park at night. On Wednesday, August 2nd, 2017, at approximately 10:30 p.m. Central Time, she was in the playground area when she came across a being standing in the middle of the pathway. Now, initially, she thought it was two people embracing, but was surprised by its height, estimated between 7 to 8 foot tall. As she observed the being, she noticed a sucking and slobbering sound emanating from it. She felt an inexplicable pull towards the figure, accompanied by a sense of foreboding. The witness grabbed her cell phone to capture a photo, but was shocked when the being slowly turned to face her. Overcome with fear, she quickly realized that this was not two people, but a single tall, dark humanoid figure. She sensed that it somehow knew she intended to take a photograph and reacted accordingly. The being had vast shoulders and appeared to be wearing a thick black material. Although she was within 15 foot of it, she did not notice any eye or distinguishable facial features despite the moonlight's visibility, which allowed for a clear view. Now, frightened, she chose another path to escape the being, but soon experienced intense weakness and fear. Needing to collect herself, she sat down while keeping an eye on the figure. Eventually, she managed to get to her feet and hurriedly followed another path home. Now, when she arrived home, she shared her experience with her son, who suggested they drive back to the park to see it if the being was still there. As they approached the area, her son noticed a large, dark shadow emerging from a nearby bush. He felt that it peered at him, although he didn't see any eyes or facial features. He sensed that it was watching him and was overcome with intense apprehension. They quickly left the park and returned home. Upon arriving home, both were scared and upset, unsure whether to report the incident to local authorities or to remain silent. Eventually, they went online and found my contact information. When I spoke to the witness, she was shocked to learn about the number of sightings in the Chicago metro area, and she had no prior knowledge of these incidents. It was evident that she was still terrified and concerned that the being might know where she lived. I asked her to keep in touch if she had any further experiences or heard of other sightings or remembered additional details. Now, this next account is probably one of the most harrowing out of all of them. Just after dusk along Chicago's scenic Lakeshore Drive, a visiting couple from Washington, D.C. came face to face with something out of a nightmare and legend. The winged humanoid hovered above them in eerie silence. Its luminous red eyes pulsed as bystanders screamed across the street. With its semi-translucent wings and vibrating, almost biological energy, this encounter remains one of the most detailed and unnerving close-range sightings ever documented in the Chicago Mothman case files. Now, the witness referred to as AG and her husband lived in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. They were currently in Chicago visiting her parents who reside at 1400 Lakeshore Drive. Although AG was born and raised abroad, her parents now call Chicago home. Now, on the night of Wednesday, August 9th, 2017, at approximately 2:30 p.m. Central Time, AG and her husband were returning to her parents' residence after taking a brief walk along North Lakeshore Drive heading south. As they approached East Scheller Street, they noticed a prominent dark figure flying towards them from the left, which was in the direction of Lake Michigan. Both witnesses were startled at as the entity crossed in front of them at an altitude of about 20 feet. They observed the anomaly sweep upwards over the trees in front of the 1400 North Lakeshore Drive, where it stopped midair, hovering a few stories above the building. For approximately 5 seconds, it remained in place, appearing to focus on the windows. Then it bent backwards and dove down toward the trees. The couple hurried towards the intersection and turned right onto East Schiller Street, quickly making their way towards the entrance of the condominium building. Suddenly, the large winged being descended slowly in front of them, no more than 25 feet away. It hovered about 5 feet above the sidewalk, and its wings spread open, looking at them with large, bright red eyes that alternated in intensity. The people across the street, including a delivery van driver, reacted with screams and frightened yelps. The being hovered for 10 seconds before quickly retracting its wings and shooting up into the night sky. There was no sound except for the rush of air as it ascended. AG described the winged being as human-like, with a small head that tapered at the top. It had human-like legs with long pointed feet. Neither witness noticed any arms. The body stood about 5 to 6 foot tall and had broad wings, resembling the upper wings of a butterfly attached to its body. The illumination from the building entrance was visible through the wings, suggesting that they were made of some skin or membrane, and the wingspan was well over 10 foot. The legs seemed to pulsate while it hovered in the air. The overall color appeared very dark, like a deep bluish green. The skin on its body may have been moist, giving it a shiny appearance. The eyes were larger compared to the head, slightly slanted, and the brightness alternated. They made no sound except for the slight humming emanating from the pulsating legs. Both witnesses reported feeling a vibration that emanated from the being. I want to thank Gene Crane and to Mortal Clown for their donations. Thank you. Anyway, AG saw at least one camera flash from across the street, but neither she nor her husband was able to retrieve their phones during the encounter due to the overwhelming fear and shock they experienced. AG stated that she literally fell to her knees after the incident, and her husband had to assist her back to the building. Since their encounter 18 hours ago, and when I talked to them, neither witness has slept more than 1 or 2 hours. Now, the witness provided a dramatic and detailed account during our phone conversation, which left a strong impression on me. This sighting offers one of the most comprehensive descriptions of this flying humanoid to date. Now, AG's husband spoke briefly, but seemed reluctant to share much. Now, although the couple was supposed to fly home that day, they have delayed their departure for a few days. AG expressed, "I'm just not ready to get on an airplane right now." So if you're enjoying tonight's presentation and want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Phantoms and Monsters Radio. It really helps us reach more people who are searching for answers about the unexplained. And make sure to click the notification bell so you won't miss any of our live shows or new episodes when they drop. Now, I just want to mention about that previous sighting a little bit. The husband, who was reluctant to talk, actually was a professional athlete in the Washington, D.C. area. Most people who follow sports would know who it is. So he didn't want to say a whole lot, but I did find out later who he was. And the interesting thing about these sightings was we've had several celebrities have a sighting of these things, local celebrities, national celebrities. So that kind of adds to the intrigue as well. So anyway, this next account. In the quiet early hours of a March night, a Tinley Park resident's late walk with his dog turned into an encounter with something immense and otherworldly. Perched beside a chimney, the creature's silhouette dwarfed the rooftop before vanishing into a swift, unnerving descent behind the house. With its wide, gargoyle-like posture, cat-like reflective eyes, and silent precision, this sighting adds a haunting layer to the eerie wave of Chicago area Mothman encounters that blanketed the city's southern suburbs in 2017. So the witness states, "Hello, Mr. Strickler. My name is OS. I believe I've seen the Mothman. My encounter took place in March, specifically at the corner of 174th Place and 66th Avenue in Tinley Park. I was walking my dog around midnight when he suddenly stopped at the corner. Now, as I looked down to see what he was staring at, I heard something swoosh overhead. I wasn't sure what it was. I had heard about large birds coming down and taking small dogs. We have a Pomeranian, so I started scanning the area. Now, as I approached a tree in front of a house, I noticed my dog looking across the street. I followed his gaze, and when I looked up at the rooftop across the street, I saw something significant crouched at the edge of the roof. I was unsure what it was, so I slowly moved closer while trying to fumble for my phone. When I turned on the LED light, which isn't very bright, I kept walking toward it. And as I reached the middle of the street with my dog behind me, it seemed to shoot up and make a sharp turn down behind the house. The creature was enormous. When it was crouched on the rooftop, it was next to the chimney, which made the chimney look small in comparison. I've attached a rough map showing where we were and the direction where it swooped down and where it landed on the rooftop. I understand if you're skeptical, but I would prefer only my initials be used if you decide to share my story. Now, my wife was the first one to mention these encounters to me, and I shared what happened with her and my mother in law as soon as I returned from walking our dog. Thanks again. So I followed up with OS for additional questions, and I received this response. Hello, Lon. It was March 16th, 2017, shortly after midnight. Our dog enjoyed taking late night walks. From what I observed when it flew overhead, the creature was not black, but rather a dark brown. The nearby telephone poles and street light at the end of the street helped to reveal its color. It was challenging to obtain a specific description because the area is so large. The way it perched on the roof line, combined with the backlighting from the train station and nearby bars, allowed me to see its crouched position. It had broad shoulders, similar to how a wide gargoyle might sit. While I can't say its eyes were red, they did have a slight reflective quality like that of a cat or dog. Everything appeared dark except for those reflections. That's why I was trying to shine more light on it with my phone. It was such an odd sight. Interestingly, our dog wasn't barking or acting alarmed at all. It seemed just as intrigued as I was. When the creature left the roof, it shot up a few feet and then dove straight down behind the house, and it was gone. After that experience, I started carrying a stream light, but unfortunately, I never got to see it again. It was a strange time. I had just returned from working in Saudi Arabia to be there for my son's birth, and then a week later, I witnessed this being. Now, it's challenging to determine the size of this being, but judging by the photo of the roof and the chimney, it was probably similar to the size descriptions from the other sightings. Notably, some early 2017 sightings occurred in South Chicago, and in some general direction, and same general direction as Tinley Park. And this encounter gives us more insight into how this being moved about. And we did receive more encounters in South Chicago, though they were kind of spread out. Very rare did we have a sighting within a couple of blocks of each other, but yeah, that and the funny thing about this sighting was Rosemary Ellen Guiley presented the Chicago Mothman. She was working with me on these reports. She did a presentation at the Mothman Festival at Point Pleasant that September. And she had pictures of the homes and this house in particular where this creature had been. And strange as it may sound, a woman who had been in the audience came up to Rosemary and told her that it was her house where this creature was. And she had no idea about it. She knew about the sightings, but she didn't know this thing was on top of her house, which just is something weird to add on to this whole saga. It's very strange. Now, this next account Long before the modern Chicago Mothman wave began, an elderly couple and a friend in Rockford, Illinois, witnessed something that seemed to glide out of the myth of a myth itself. Bat-like wings, glowing red eyes, and a muscular humanoid frame moved in eerie, slow motion before vanishing between two pine trees without a trace. The witnesses could only describe it as a gargoyle, a fitting label for one of the earliest and most enigmatic precursors to the winged humanoid phenomena that later swept the Chicago region. Now, I received a telephone call from an elderly woman referred to as SS, who witnessed a winged humanoid in Rockford, Illinois in 1999, along with her husband and a close friend. The incident took place during the summer on an evening with a full moon. The trio was relaxing on their friend's front porch located at West Willard Avenue near Auburn High School and Cottonwood Airport. While they were having a conversation, SS's friend suddenly stopped speaking and began staring across the street. SS turned to look in the same direction and noticed a dark gray winged humanoid gliding slowly near a large tree. She described this being as moving as if it were in slow motion as it approached the tree. The friend then exclaimed, "Do you see that?" The witnesses were close enough to observe that the creature had small cat-like ears and intense red eyes, but no other facial feature were visible. It appeared to be quite muscular, standing approximately 7 feet tall with clearly defined legs and arms that were attached to the wings. The wings resembled those of a bat, featuring a leather-like membrane. SS noted that the being was perched in the tree for a moment before retaking flight. It was at this point that SS's husband also noticed it. The winged creature glided toward a pair of large pine trees, its legs moving up and down as it flew. The being flew between the two pine trees and then suddenly vanished. SS remarked gargoyle, to which her friend responded, "Yes, a gargoyle." Now, after the encounter, SS stated that they seemed to forget about the incident until about a year later, when she inquired if her friend remembered the sighting. Her friend confirmed that she did remember, but had also forgotten about it over time. SS's son informed her about the recent reports of similar sightings and suggested that she'd contact me. He was aware of the reports of the winged humanoids in the Chicago area. Now, this was the second sighting of a winged humanoid that ended up vanishing abruptly, and we had another later. The first incident occurred in Chicago, just a few blocks from Wrigley Field. This also marks the fifth sighting in the Rockford, Illinois area. Members of the Phantoms and Monsters 14 research will be following up with this witness, which they did. Tobias called her and talked to her. Rockford is a city about, about 40 miles northwest of Chicago. And they had several sightings there. I think there was 2 or 3 more beyond this or outside of Rockford after this sighting. So there was a lot of sightings there. Now, this next account, 2 seasoned airline pilots, each with thousands of hours of flight experience, reported encounters with a massive winged humanoid at one of the busiest airports in the world. One sighting occurred at dawn in 2020 as a jet taxied off runway 28R. The other, a year earlier, involved a creature perched openly near a terminal shuttle route, locking eyes with his observer through the glowing red orbs. Calm professionalism gave way to disbelief as both men, trained observers accustomed to the skies, faced an aerial presence that seemed to defy explanation and raise new questions about O'Hare's role as a focal point in the Chicago Mothman phenomena. So the pilot states, "Good morning. I want to reach out regarding an incident that occurred on Sunday, May 31st, 2020. To provide some background, my name is redacted, and I redacted the other pilot's name. We're landing at O'Hare International at approximately 7:30 a.m. that morning. As we were taxiing off the active runway and towards the terminal, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. I turned to see a large black human like figure flying up into the sky. I observed this creature for about 4 seconds before it descended above the cockpit window and vanished from sight. I immediately called it out to my co pilot, who also caught a glimpse of it before it disappeared. We were both taken aback by the sighting and were left dumbfounded. I reported the incident to air traffic control, who made a note of the sighting. The remainder of the flight was uneventful, and we disembarked our passengers without any issues. Now, after the incident, I discussed it with colleagues online and learned that several other pilots had either seen the same creature or had heard similar reports from others. This is a summarized version of the incident, but I hope it helps convey that my co pilot and I experienced that morning. And the location of sighting, O'Hare International, just off runway 28R by Terminal 2. Later, I received another airline pilot's account. My name is Bruce, name change at the request of the witness. I am a pilot for a commercial airline, and I've been with the company since 2008. Previously, I flew for another airline and served for 6 years in the United States Air Force. Throughout my career, I have accumulated over 9,000 hours of flight time and have flown a variety of aircraft in nearly all weather conditions. The incident I'm about to share occurred on Thursday, August 8th, 2019 at O'Hare International around 6 p.m. I had flown into O'Hare the day before and spent the night at a hotel. I was scheduled to depart at 8 p.m. for the UK. As I took the airport shuttle to the terminal, I looked out the window and saw a prominent figure with enormous wings and glowing red eyes perched on a rail watching me intently. The being appeared to be squatted down, but its wings were fully spread, moving them slowly as it stared at the shuttle bus as we passed by. I could sense that it was focused on me. Its head turned and followed as we drove away, and its eyes remained locked on mine the entire time. I admit I was startled and terrified, not only by the encounter, but also by the boldness of this creature, as it did not attempt to hide itself despite our proximity. We passed it at about 15 foot away and it remained still, observing us without flinching. When I looked back to see if it was still there, I saw nothing and could only assume that it must have flown away as we passed. Now, I had heard the stories about the O'Hare Mothman, or some call it the Batman, but I had dismissed them as urban legends associated with an already spooky airport. After all, who hasn't heard of strange UFO sightings over O'Hare and various ghost stories? However, my experience that evening completely changed my perspective on those stories. After seeing a post asking for pilots to share their encounters, I felt compelled to come forward and recount my experience with the O'Hare Mothman. So this next account, during an evening rescue operation atop of one of Milwaukee's tallest downtown buildings, a retired fire officer witnessed something he could only scarcely believe. A humanoid figure with massive wings gliding silently above the skyline. The being, seen near dusk between Northwestern Mutual and U.S. Bank Center towers, emitted a faint green glow from its eyes and rose into the air without a single wing beat. Kept secret for years by two seasoned first responders, this sighting predates the Chicago Mothman wave. It stands as one of the earliest modern accounts linking the phenomena to the broader Lake Michigan area. So I received a telephone call from a retired officer of the Milwaukee Fire Department and Medical Services regarding a fire rescue incident involving a huge winged humanoid. On the morning of Wednesday, November 26, 2014, the Northwestern Mutual South Building in downtown Milwaukee was evacuated after smoke entered the premises. This incident occurred at 720 East Wisconsin Avenue around 8 a.m., triggering alarms for the Milwaukee Fire Department. Now, later that day, in the early evening, a fire medical services call was made to the exact location. A window washer was trapped near the top of the Northwestern Mutual building. The witness, who was the lead officer at the scene, along with another officer, ascended to the roof of the building. Upon reaching the top, the witness noticed movement on the U.S. Bank Center building at 777 East Wisconsin Avenue, approximately half a block away. Initially, he thought it was just another person in the adjacent building, but soon realized this figure had enormous wings. Although it was early dusk, there was enough ambient light for a clear description. The witness also observed that the being had green goggles over its eyes, only to realize later it was actually emitting a bright green light from its eyes. The creature's body was dark in color, slight in build, and stood at approximately 6 feet tall. Now, as the witness and his partner watched, the winged human unfurl its wings to a span of over 12 feet and, without flapping, slowly ascended into the air. The witness remarked on how effortlessly it flew and its wings fully extended before gliding out of sight. Now, the two witnesses vowed never to discuss this incident publicly or within the department. However, after becoming aware of the recent reports of winged humanoids in Chicago and around Lake Michigan, the witness decided to contact me. He provided credentials and various forms of identification, including his distinguished service accommodation and personal photographs. So it was a great witness. And we did have a couple of sightings in the Milwaukee area, just a few, but I just about as far north as the sightings got, or far north from Chicago. Now, this next and last account: on a quiet summer evening at O'Hare International Airport, an experienced air traffic controller took a short break, only to come face to face with a dark, towering figure that defied all logic. Standing over 6 foot tall with membranous wings spanning 12 feet, the creature appeared to be searching the ground before taking flight in a single powerful motion. As stories of the O'Hare Mothman circulated among pilots and controllers alike, the first-hand account from a veteran professional added rare credibility to one of Chicago's most persistent and unsettling aerial mysteries. Now, he states, I have worked at O'Hare International for the past 7 years as part of the air traffic control team. Now, during this time, I have overseen hundreds of flight operations in and out of the airport. I've witnessed many strange occurrences, but none have been as remarkable as the sighting I had back in July 2020. On that evening, I was working in the TradeCon and had just stepped away for one of our mandatory breaks. These breaks help us rejuvenate, break up the monotony of what can often be a tedious routine, and prevent us from falling asleep. Now, during those breaks, I usually go for a walk to clear my head and enjoy a change of scenery. While walking toward one of the terminal buildings, I noticed some movement out of the corner of my eye. For some unknown reason, I stopped and turned in the direction of the movement and saw a large black shape landing near a light pole. This creature was at least 6 to 7 feet tall and jet black. It resembled a very large bat, but also possessed some human-like features. I noticed it had an impressive set of membranous wings, resembling those of a bat, fully extended and measuring at least 12 feet from tip to tip. Its arms were long and skinny, ending in bony fingers tipped with what appeared to be long talons. The legs were similar, long and thin, but I couldn't clearly see their feet to determine if they were shaped like hands. Now, I watched this being for about 30 seconds as it seemed to search the ground. Now, during that time, 2 other people walked down the walkway and also noticed it. If the creature had looked up, it would have clearly seen us staring in disbelief. It kept its head down, focused on the ground, until an approaching service vehicle startled it, causing it to look up. That's when I saw its head, short and squat with a pair of piercing red eyes. It glanced in the direction of the vehicle and then flapped its wings, taking it to the air. With 1 to 2 seconds, it disappeared above the building and was gone from sight. Now, I have heard many stories about the supposed O'Hare Mothman from pilots and other air traffic controllers and other people that had worked at the airport. Many have recounted seeing it either in flight or perched somewhere, describing its glowing red eyes and its resemblance to a giant man bat. Several of my fellow controllers have claimed to have seen it themselves, and I heard from others who did. It has become the subject of radio chatter on multiple occasions. While I never gave much credence to these stories, part of me hoped that they were real. And after witnessing it myself, I became a true believer. I personally know three other controllers who had sightings, as well as just as many pilots who reported seeing it in and around the airport. It has developed an almost legendary urban myth status among those who work at O'Hare. I know what I saw was real, and I want to share my story so others can hear it. I want people to know that this creature is indeed out there and that trained professionals like myself have seen it and can confirm its existence. I hope you find my I hope you find my report helpful, and if you wish to contact me, I would be happy to answer any questions regarding my encounter. Now, I later had a telephone conversation with this air traffic controller. I reached out to the witness and conducted a phone interview regarding the sighting. I started asking questions about his background and his willingness to provide photos of his work credentials, which helped establish his identity and confirmed that he indeed did work at O'Hare International. He had been employed there for 7 years, primarily working rotating shifts, with the majority of his shifts starting in the evening and transitioning to the overnight shift. The witness is a trained weather observer and graduate of the FAA Training Academy, several years of experience. He recounted the story without any deviations, and when I asked questions intended to explore the inconsistencies, he corrected me and stood by his report. He stated he was no more than 20 to 25 about what it appeared to be searching for. He said he had no idea. He described the skin of its wings as membrane-like, resembling stretched skin similar to that of a bat. I also asked if it left any sense of dread or impending danger during or after the sighting, as many other reports suggested. He indicated that he did not experience any such feelings. Now, regarding other witnesses he mentioned, he stated that they did not remain present long for him to speak with them after the encounter. So if you have questions, put it in all caps, please, and post it so Kevin can get back to me and let me know what you have. So, okay. The super chat from Gene Crane. A question for the end. Do they have wings like bat? What kind of feet or hooves do they have? I'm in the hospital, had heart surgery, starting to fall asleep, so I'll listen in the morning. Take care and thank you. And I hope you get better. And thanks for the donation. Yeah, they were bat-like wings for the most part. We did have other sightings of creatures with insectoid type wings and owl-like wings. But I'd say 90% of the sightings that received after all these years were bat-like wings. The feet, they were different. I mean, it was some said they were pointy, some said they were just small, but that's about the extent that the description of the legs and feet were. Any more questions? Jose Sanchez, do you think that most cryptids have this eye glowing aspect to them, only different coloring according to the respective eyes? Well, this creature itself, we had, of course, the overwhelming red eyes, which were projected light. I mean, it wasn't like reflection, it was projected light. So, right off the bat, you know it's something supernatural about them. But we also had sightings in Wisconsin, actually, of creatures with blue and creatures with green eyes. So, yeah, there were different colors of the eyes. Sir Wolf, hi Lon. Does Mothman appear to be a particular time of year generally? The first year we thought, well, when it was going to get cold, because most of the sightings we had were in the summer and the early fall. When we figured when it got cold, it would stop showing up, and it did. We hadn't had a sighting for almost 2 to 3 months, but then in February of 2018, we started getting sightings again. Now, most of the sightings were out of the city, but we were getting sightings, even in the snow. And we had some prints that we believe did come in. I mean, in the snow from the being. So yeah, and so as time has gone on, we've had sightings year round. Gamer guy, Lon, have you heard anything about anyone seeing drones? Um, the drone thing. In fact, I had some reports here where I live at about drone sightings. So, but other than that, of course, there have been drone sightings all through this area and a lot of places in the United States. But as of late, I haven't heard too many. So I don't know what that was all about. Next question. Dagnammit. Question from last week's show. Why are men in black aliens preventing the world to know that there are other civilizations in the universe? Again, I believe the men in black are alien beings, but they're the cleanup crew, and that's what I call them, cleanup crew. Um, they'd show up fairly quickly after a sighting, before the witness even has even an inkling to go out and make a report. But they do communicate with the witnesses to the degree that it makes them feel like they're being warned not to report. Some people have said they seem threatening, and some of the things that I've heard from others does seem to be like a threatening tone when they talk. So apparently, when something has been seen by a human that they shouldn't see, either a craft or a being itself, these things show up and try to talk them out of making any reports. Okay, I see one from Jose Sanchez up here. Have there ever been any near aircraft misses at O'Hare, Chicago Airport with the Mothman? Not that we know of. That's never been reported to any of us. But people have seen this thing fly above the runways or above the tarmac. But most of the sighting are either in the cargo areas, which is near where the cemetery is, and other outlying areas. Sir Wolf, do you think there is more than one, or are they all the same creature? Do their descriptions differ by much? I believe from the beginning we were dealing with at least three beings, because we had actually had periods of time when they were seen in different parts of the city at the same time. Um, as time has gone on, I believe we've seen, or people have seen, dozens of these things. Now, overall, they're pretty similar, but there are some slight variations. So that's why I continue to believe that these beings, there have been numerous beings. And I've been saying, as I have been saying, that I believe they are interdimensional. I think there's a place that, or places where they come in and out of a linear dimension to our Earth plane. I don't think they're here all the time. Um, the sightings are very fleeting as well. So yeah, I think we've had quite a few have been reported that were different, for different creatures. Bone nut. I've heard of Owlman sightings in Britain, but have there been any pterosaur sightings here? Thanks for your time. Yeah, oh, yeah, we get pterosaur sightings a lot. In the upper Midwest, especially in Illinois and into Wisconsin and Indiana. Um, we've had pterosaur sites are fairly common, maybe not as now like they were before, but we do get a lot of sightings where people describe pterodactyl like beings or pterosaur type beings. Grand Dodger 12 question line: any connection with Chicago Man to portal activity? While far away, any connection to the Great Lakes Triangle? Thanks for the topic. I think they are interdimensional. I truly do believe that now. I think others on the team as well do believe that. I haven't found any connection with the lake itself or just the Lake Michigan Triangle. Um, we've had a few sightings near the lake, but I still haven't found anything that really connects it to Lake Michigan. Jose Sanchez, what about younger Mothman, like small children, never been seen before? Maybe one time. We had one sighting north of the city where a female witness saw this thing run across the road like it was trying to run with its wings and legs. She said it was quite small, so but it did have bat-like wings. So that could have been a juvenile. It wasn't big at all. She really couldn't tell because it crossed the road in front of her. Real truth. Thanks for your donations. Much appreciated. Leakum the spicy lizard. Any sightings at other airports or major cities, or does the Chicago area seem unique when it comes to the winged humanoids? Yeah, uh, we just I there's nothing been reported that I know of that even comes near to what happened has been going on in Chicago. Um, near airports or any other urban area. It's very unusual. There were some sightings of a similar like being along the Thames in West London years ago, but that's the only sighting that I can associate with an urban area. To Mothman, could there be a link between the 2006 O'Hara UFO incident and the Chicago Mothman? It could be. Um, we've had two reports of UFO activity near the Mothman sightings. One was at both of them were at O'Hara. The one was at the cemetery, and the other one was seen by a guard in the southwest part of the airport where they were doing some work. I believe those were the only two, but yeah, there was some association. These were later on, but these were some association with UFO activity. As far as the 2006 UFO, I don't think there's any association. Anything else, folks? Okay, well, I want please consider a membership and become a Fams and Monsters Radio Insider. It's just $2.99 a month, and you receive members only live chats with me, exclusive videos and early case drops, priority comment replies, member badge and recognition, and as well as giveaways, including paranormal books from my personal collection. So until we meet again, stay well, have a great weekend, and good night.